Welcome back. Happy Monday. How's everybody doing? Oh, what did I just do? Oh man, I just closed everything out of my desktop. Anyway, hi, we're here. And it's good to see you. We got a loaded question to talk about today. We're going to talk about incendiary munitions. The 9M22S, BM21 grads, and whether or not the use of incendiary munitions, which there's a lot of misinformation going around, are legal. But we'll get to that here in just a second. Do me a favor, tap on the like button. We still don't know what we want to call the show. I guess one day we'll figure out what that is, but in the meantime, drop in the chat. Let me know where you guys are chiming in from. It's good to see you. Happy Monday. God, I love this song. I don't know how lucky I got finding a kind of a theme song for the show. And this is a banger. You can't hate it. You can't hate it. All right. Hey, first of all, I wanted to say hi. You all look very nice today. I dressed up for you too. Got our new shirt on. Wreck the Halls. I love it. It's Santa wearing a pair of PS31s and an AT4. Listen, we make shirts simply so that we can buy one, right? If somebody else picks one up, great. If not, I have a new shirt that I really enjoy wearing. 98th like, we can do better than that. Hello from Cape Cod. Welcome in, Cape Cod. Denmark, what's going on? Stop it, I started a headbang. What do you mean? Abu Hajar! There you go, boss! Yeah! Let's get started for the night, guys. Let's get started. So, once again, please do tap on the like button. It's a free way to support the stream. Just commenting in the chat, engaging in the conversation. We are asking a very loaded question today, and in fact, I want to put up a poll. But I've started to notice every time a new video resurfaces, or a new video surfaces of the use of these incendiary munitions, and I'm going to call them incendiary. We know exactly what they are. They're not phosphorus. But the phosphorus tag gets applied to them in way too many circles. And there are major differences in the use of white phosphorus and the way the white phosphorus looks. And we're going to examine that stuff today. We're also going to talk about legalities. We're going to talk about, the kind of historical timeline use of these in Ukraine. We're also going to see some pretty amazing footage today. We're going to see some negligent discharge footage coming out of Ukraine. Very fresh video. We're going to take a look at some Russian TV personalities, oddly on a set that looks a lot like a bargain bin version of Who Wants to Be a Millionaire, arguing with each other over whether or not it's appropriate to just attack civilians in population centers. Oddly enough, that's something that they decided needed to be arguing. I don't know why you would really need to argue that. That seems kind of dumb to me. But we're going to watch it. We're going to talk about it. It's good to see you. Happy Monday. Before we get there, I do need to make a note about our sponsor for tonight. You see in that side, there's our sponsor, JX Tactical. I absolutely love what JX Tactical is doing. You'll understand why I'm laughing here in a minute. If you're looking for a holster, JX Tactical has got you covered. They're a USA owned, operated, and all their holsters come, right out of the USA. But here's the deal. They have carry options for every body type. Now, a lot of you guys might know that I'm down like 100 pounds. I used to be 260 pounds. I've got photos of before and after on my Instagram. And one of the problems I always had was appendix carry having a little bit of extra tactical padding, if you will, a little bit of fluff on there. Appendix carry was always very difficult for me. I now carry appendix. They have carry options for those that might be carrying around a little bit extra lunch meat. I don't know what better to, I don't know how else to say that. They're really awesome holsters, guys. Go check them out, jxtactical.com. You can check the link in the description down below or up above. The holster specifically you're looking for, and I'm not making this up, this is their name for it, is the Fat Guy. The Fat Guy holster. All of them come pre-cut for optics, RMRs, etc. unlike some of their competitors, which you need to pay an upcharge for that special optic cut. So go check out JX Tactical. We thank them very much for sponsoring the show. How we doing? Organic soft armor. Let's take a look at some footage here. Before we get into the incendiaries, I want to take a look at one video. Zelenskyy spoke to the NATO Parliamentary Assembly today. We're going to watch this. It's about 1 minute and 45 seconds. He is effectively urging NATO allies to consider Russia a terrorist state. Here you are.
Дуже вам дякуємо за те, що ви до нас доєдналися. Ви маєте слово, прошу.
Дуже дякую. Шановний пане президенте Асамблеї, шановні присутні, шановні представники Іспанії і усіх інших країн Альянсу. Дорогі друзі, радий вітати вас і дякую за усі теплі слова, які тільки що прозвучали, звучать і звучатимуть в Асамблеї на нашу підтримку, на підтримку боротьби за свободу. Сьогодні в Україні відзначається 9-та річниця початку Майдану, Революції Гідності. Тими місяцями 2013-2014 років, коли українці на площах і вулицях наших міст захищали право на європейський вибір для нашої держави, відбулася важлива річ і для всієї нашої з вами спільноти народів, які об'єднані цінностями свободи, поваги до права, демократії і різноманітності. Українці наповнили потужною життєвою силою те, що багатьом почало здаватися лише бюрократичною формальністю. Українці і всі люди в Європі, в Америці, в світі, які нас підтримали і підтримують, наповнили новою енергією прапор Європейського Союзу. І фактично тим, як ми в Україні захищаємо свободу, ми об'єднали як Євросоюз, так і НАТО. Ми показали спільність викликів і довели спільність цінностей.
God, man. I don't think that video did a great justification or didn't really do justice to what Zelenskyy asked of NATO. He essentially continued to urge NATO to declare Russia a terrorist state. Now, this isn't something that I want to sit here and discuss with you because it's, much more of a heavy loaded question than we would typically cover. But what I did do is I put a poll up for you guys. So please respond to that poll. I'd love to get a gauge of where the community stands on the declaration of Russia as a terrorist state under the Putin regime. So now let's get into what I wanted to cover for, the main talking point of the show, and that is these incendiary munitions that continue to be used in Ukraine by Russia, but also we do understand that Ukraine has these as well. They have fallen on Russian positions in the past, whether or not that was Ukraine or if it was Russia dropping them on their own positions. That's a kind of a running theme that people jump straight to when Ukraine is accused of doing something wrong, is that Russia did it to themselves. I doubt that's 100% always the case. Ukraine does have these as well. So when we watch through these, most of the footage we're going to see is of Russia using these, and we're going to go back historically and look at some of its use before. But remember, Ukraine is believed to have used these as well. And then we're going to talk about legalities. The latest video of these incendiary munitions comes by way of Bakhmut. We're going to pull that up for you right now. I'm going to put myself on the left here. I call them murder sparkles because they're absolutely beautiful. But what are they? And this isn't the first that we've seen the use of these. We also have very recent footage of them being used in Berestove. And we're actually going to take a look at a map for that one. Stand by. Coming up for you. White phosphorus? It is not phosphorus, but we'll talk about the differentiation between the two here very soon. And that's exactly why I wanted to cover this. Now we're going to cover capabilities, exactly what this is, and it's, you know, to some extent, differentiation when viewing from white phosphorus. Now again, this isn't new. We're going to go ahead and pause that one, bring it back up. We're going to take a look back in time. Let's rewind a little bit. This isn't new. Let's take a look at Azovstal. About 6 months ago. Check this out. This is in Azovstal. You see those incendiary munitions raining down. Coming back up. And again, I don't have a location for this one, but this was about 5 months ago. This is the one that, you know, had me start to call them murder sparkles. Суки, блядь. Ебать. Now, here's what these are. All right, that's not phosphorus. These are a magnesium-based round. Fired from they're 122 millimeters, fired from BM-21 grads. Now, what's a BM-21 grad? We've covered that before. Very, you know, to a certain extent, simple weapons system, if you will. A multiple MLRS, multiple launch rocket system that's on the back of what looks like a 1960s truck, flatbed truck, with about 40 tubes on it that can just continuously send rockets downrange. You've seen this before, but now I'm bringing it full circle for you. So these are fired from a BM-21 grad, and the specific munition, the nomenclature is 9M22S. Now the 9M22S, let's pull that up really quick, is very different from phosphorus, primarily in the way it looks, right? We're going to talk, you know, specifically about how to identify phosphorus versus identifying these magnesium-based munitions. Now, inside of each of these 122 millimeter rockets, there are 180 of these un-fuzed, incendiary, hexagonal-shaped devices. When this is fired from BM-21 grads, those essentially get ignited on explosion of the rocket over top of its target and then kind of float down onto whatever its target is. They burn at about 2,000 degrees centigrade. Now, how, if you're looking at this footage, can you differentiate this from maybe phosphorus? We'll get to the legalities here in just a second, because that's kind of a loaded question. And just for an understanding of how much this covers, just one of these rockets can cover 250 feet by 250 feet. So if I mathed correctly, and I failed Algebra 2 twice, a full 40 rocket salvo of these can cover 10 grid squares. Would that be accurate? Somebody check me on that math. Grid square being 1,000 meters by 1,000. No, we're way off. Scratch that, editor. Now let's look at what phosphorus looks like. This is phosphorus. Phosphorus burns a very dull orange, kind of a, you know, almost a sunset color. This is specifically in Vietnam. This is a Douglas A1E dropping an M47 Willie Pete in South Vietnam. Note the very, very heavy smoke. Very heavy smoke. Let's start to talk about legalities. Technically speaking, the use of these incendiary munitions is not illegal. The use of Willie Pete is not illegal. In fact, a team member of ours was a mortarman and used to drop Willie Pete from a smokescreen perspective. That is not illegal to do so. The use of incendiary munitions is regulated by the Convention on Certain Conventional Weapons. which was signed in Geneva in 1980. Convention on Certain Conventional Weapons. That's a mouthful. Essentially, the use of these incendiary munitions over civilian population centers is technically illegal. However, the language is extremely subjective, and this includes, flamethrowers, Molotovs, because you can use incendiary weapons on military targets. That's a common misconception. It's akin to, you can't use a 50 cal on personnel. Yes, you can. You absolutely can. Send it. You got troops in the open, a team to squad-sized element, open up on them. That you can absolutely use a 50 cal on personnel. You can use incendiary munitions. When you use them over population centers, like we saw in Azovstal, like we've seen Russia do over Mariupol before, that's where it starts to cross into a legal gray area, not even necessarily directly into an illegal use of incendiaries, because the language is extremely subjective. And this is Protocol 3 of the Convention on Certain Conventional Weapons. We're going to look at that language. Check this out. I'll give you a link to this if you want to go and check it out yourself. There's the link. It's straight from the Red Cross website. But it is the exact language. It's just the most summarized version of the language. Here we go. The protection of civilians and civilian objects. So, Article 2, which again, protection of civilians and civilian objects, says that you can't deliver these at all via air. In all circumstances, to deliver this into a civilian population area via air. You can't fly over and drop incendiary munitions from the air. From other than air. That's where things start to get interesting. You can drop incendiaries into civilian areas if the military objective that you're dropping is clearly separated from the concentration of civilians and all feasible precautions are taken with a view to limiting the incendiary effects to the military objective and to avoiding, and to any event minimizing, incidental loss of civilian life, injury to civilians, and damage to civilian objects. That is extremely subjective. But technically speaking, even dropping these over population centers is a gray area. Now, let's take it a step further. What the is a war crime in the first place? That's oxymoronic. War crimes are a myth in my mind. And in order for a nation, first of all, wars are fought by nations, not necessarily by armies. But in order for a nation to be held accountable to something, under most circumstances, even if the victor had committed similar war crimes, they're not going to try themselves for it. They're going to try the loser. In this situation with Russia, in what way, even if we do try to start making the argument that all of these things that we're seeing are war crimes, we walk past the subjective language here, and we essentially say no, that was used over top of civilian population centers. It is 100% a war crime. Who is going to hold Russia accountable to that? That's the question of the hour for me. So we've answered the question. What are these incendiary munitions? They are not phosphorus. When you see these being passed around on Twitter, they aren't. Even if they were, technically speaking, it would be legal because they're delivered via ground and the language itself is subjective. It's a gray area. When they're being used, and the creator of these actually said, if I'm not mistaken, very specifically, I think I wrote it down. Essentially, they're extremely effective for use against troops in trenches. They were developed back in like the 1970s, something along those lines. They were developed actually alongside the United States use of napalm. Russia wanted something a little bit more kind of strategic. Strategic might not be the best word. In a smaller package, that they could deliver, and these were developed alongside. I'm just scrolling up through the chat here. I mean, what do you guys think, right? Based on the language, which is subjective, they can't be delivered by air. So that's what paragraph 2 is stating here. Prohibited in all circumstances to make any military objective located within a concentration of civilians the object of attack by air-delivered incendiary weapons. So you can't drop a Molotov out of a biplane. You can't drop 9M22S or fire 9M22S from any air platform. Or, platform is fine. But it's prohibited to make... so again, here, it's talking about other platforms other than air. And it's prohibited unless you can make the argument that the military objective you were targeting in the population center was clearly separated. That's subjective, right? It's, once again, kind of a more complex problem than are they illegal or are they not. The use of incendiaries themselves is not illegal. Right, white phosphorus is considered to be, to some extent, an incendiary weapon. The United States still uses that to drop a smoke screen. Right, it's, quite simple. That's the best way for me to explain that. Global war on terror was used. Now there are chemical aspects. We've actually got a chemist that's a part of our moderator team. There are chemical aspects to phosphorus that these magnesium rounds have. That these magnesium rounds don't have, but that's starting to go down like a path that is way beyond my $5 budget understanding of the situation. So let's jump into the chat. I want to track what you guys are saying about this. I'm going to cover some of this support that's coming across. Turn the music back on. What do you guys think? What the fuck is this? How about some dystopia? There we go. Abu Hajra, thanks for the 516. Crimes of the past do not relativize crimes in the current. Okay. Sebastian, thank you for the 206. I love you go in so much detail to explain things. We're covering very top level, brother. All right. I mean, you can really start to dive much further down in this. I'm not a Hague lawyer. Not even close. I'm just a guy watching footage. That's it. But I very much appreciate the $2.06. Torek, thank you for the $5. YouTube is censoring you. Shocker. I'm subbed and asked to be notified of any live streams or videos, and no notification or marks on my sub tab. Love you all. Weird. Can't tell you that. It hadn't been happening. It has. It's been happening for a long time, Torek. Thanks very much for the 5. Abu Hajra, thanks again for the 516. Condemning an entire country as terrorists is the safest way to turn the entire population into enemies. Us versus all of them mentality. You and I are on the same thought plane with that, brother. All right, let me jump into the chat here. I'd be dead immediately from the death sparkles. They look amazing. The murder sparkles. It looks like it sucks. It does. Technically speaking, not illegal. Right? So this is us kind of playing a little bit of counter narrative to what you guys might be seeing on Twitter. Right? Never censor the shorts. Don't ever intend to. Yeah, those are always going to be let fly. So let's move on a little bit. We've got the next video that I wanted to watch. Actually, we're going to save that one. Josh, we're going to save the video of the evening for after this. Regardless of what's happening around the world, one of the things that you love to see is the Russian media arguing with each other over whether or not it's okay to just bomb civilians. Like, that's something we had to argue about. But one of them might be onto something. Check this out. It's about 3.5 to 4 minutes, but I think it's going to be a good watch for you.
Когда мы, как это у нас называлось, выравнивали линию фронта в Харькове, или что мы там делали? Перегруппировались. А мы думали, что мы приближаем линию огневого поражения к нашим границам.
Но стыдитесь.
А сейчас, почему вы, например, 100 раз я спрашивал, почему не поставить вопрос? Обстреливайте, Харьков будет уничтожен.
Вот,
Просто
Володь,
стереть с лица земли.
Да.
Киев будет уничтожен.
И это
А мы
надо.
каждый раз говорим, нет.
Hold on a second. Tell me this doesn't look like a bad game show. First of all, this is like state-run media, news, television for Russia. This looks like a very low-budget like game show.
Нет, ну не надо. Если они захотят войти сейчас в Белгород или в Курск, у нас что, там войска стоят? У нас там готовые линии обороны? Мы будем аплодировать?
Да.
И говорить, нет, не смейте.
Да.
Думаю, вся встанет и скажет, этого нельзя
Ну
делать.
да, вот в том-то и дело. Вот мы говорим, ой, нельзя. С ними другого языка, как может быть языка только, вот который Израиль и его руководители, ранние руководители проповедовали, другого языка ни украинцы, ни поляки, ни тем более европейцы не принимают. Мы с этими террористами, вот я смотрю очередное заявление, мы всех накажем, Да, мы будем
Как мы
ждать,
всех
когда
накажем?
Басаева
Мы что,
там
наказали
арестуем,
убийцу
посадим,
Дарьи Дугиной?
и за бюджетный процесс еще и будем содержать. Нет, мы должны
Кого мы
тогда
накажем?
создать, или неофициальное заявление должно быть от неофициалов, типа вот таких, как, значит, частные организации, что мы вас всех уничтожим.
Мы за Дарью Дугину отомстили? Нет.
Вот я тебе и говорю.
Мы за
как
Крымский
это,
мост
знаешь,
исполнителей
и тогда они
уничтожили?
хотя бы
Нет.
бояться будут. Они же тоже люди. Вы бояться будете.
Да не боятся
Значит,
никто.
ну да. На двадцатке не
Somebody just said Fox and Friends. It's more like f***ers and Friends on this. If you ever end up like, starting to watch some of the clips that come out of here, some of this shit's absolutely crazy. Anyway, back here, go back to the.
стесняясь, уже Зеленский говорит в этой своей 20-минутной речи, что никаких Минсков. Все, не рассчитывайте.
Почему Зеленский так себя ведет?
Потому что ему позволительно.
Нет, потому что на линии фронта у нас
Да,
нет
конечно.
подавляющего преимущества. И потому что мы с лета находимся в обороне. Притом, вежливо говоря, на двух фронтах крайне неудачно.
Конечно.
Есть ощущение, что мы хотим создать некую иллюзию, что, в общем, это как бы действительно операция. Но это не операция, это действительно большая война. Это большая война, и она действительно требует очень серьезного сосредоточения нации. Но с людьми надо каким-то образом говорить. Сегодня такое ощущение, что как-то мы... Что-то отсюда возникают всякие идеи. А что там будет? Перемирие все-таки или что? Замерение будет, незамерение, как это все, хаос, в душах хаос. Его надо определенно гасить, но гасить его надо правдой и тем, что с людьми надо разговаривать.
This guy's sunglasses inside is killing me.
По поводу того, что ты сказал, я не согласен в двух случаях. Это непотребно, это неконструктивно, это преступно бомбить мирные города. Слова «стереть с лица земли Харьков и Киев», они не должны быть сказаны, тем более в России. Никогда не было в истории войн, чтобы бомбежка мирного города, гражданского населения привела к каким-то результатам на поле боя. Их что, волнует? Когда это было? Ни в одной войне этого не было.
Хорошо, тогда мы будем опять отвечать на уровне девочки-пятиклассницы, которая рыдает, что бомбят наши мирные города.
Я это...
All right, so hold on. Let's pause for a second. Let's talk about this. So, Russia guy number one basically just said, "Hey, it doesn't make sense to target population centers, peaceful cities. Like that has never resulted in something positive happening." If I tend to agree. And then this guy said, "Don't be a little girl." I just wanted to bring that full circle for you. Don't be a little girl. We need to bomb population centers. That's what just happened. That's the exchange we just watched. Just wanted to simplify that for you. Here you go.
этого не сказал.
Не, ну такой же вариант.
Нет. Если у тебя есть два варианта, у меня есть еще 20 других.
И у меня есть 50 других.
Вот. Но это не вариант бомбить город мирный, население.
Но мы сначала предупредим, чтобы мирные вышли.
Нельзя.
We're going to tell them to run away before we bomb their homes. It's going to be fine. We're going to drop leaflets. It's not okay to do that. It's not okay if the US bombs cities. It's not okay if Russia bombs cities. We'll tell them to all leave. It's fine. It's going to be fine.
Бомбить мирные города. Нет, это даже произносить такие вещи нельзя.
Они
Стереть
мирные.
город с лица земли – это непотребно. Нельзя этого произносить. Есть 1001 способ, как воевать, не затрагивая мирное население.
I think my favorite part of all of that is when they're going back and forth with the dick measuring competition on how many solutions they've each got. The one guy, you know, the reasonable appearing one, said essentially, for every solution you have, I've got 2 others. And he was like, well, I've got 50. And he was like, well, I have 1,001. It's like, just continue it. How big is it, boys? Huh? Yeah? All right, let's move on. All right, we're going to watch one that's going to be a little bit comical, a little bit tough to watch. That one was comical. Anytime I watch these idiots, it is absolutely amusing because some of it is just so nonsensical. This one, I haven't shown a whole lot of them before, you know, because again, it's so off the wall. This one was one I wanted to talk about. I wanted to show because, I mean, the one guy's right. At what point is bombing Kyiv or Kharkiv going to result in something positive? It's not. Let's take a look at a video that's coming fresh out of the Ukraine side of what happens when you have the wrong guy as your PKM gunner. Here you go.
Сука, заклинив знову. Блядь! Не ранений? Блядь! Не... Сука, заклинив знову. Блядь! Не ранений? Сука, заклинив знову. Блядь! Не ранений? Целий? Автомат заклинить. На тобі цілий короб. Да.
One more time. So Josh, dickhead Josh put in the chat, he's like, Ronnie, it's for this reason that you can't be our 240 Bravo gunner. Like, come on, man.
Блядь! Не ранений? Целий? Автомат заклинить.
All right, coming back up. Did he really just shoot his dude? That's what it looked like to me. Yeah, WTF, mate. Terry, thanks for the $10. What would stop Russia from putting phosphorus warheads in the Iranian drones? What's your perspective on that? You know, so we talked at a kind of a broader level on incendiaries. Phosphorus is not banned. You can use phosphorus. It depends on what you use it for and where you use it. That'd be my opinion on it. Terry, thanks for the $10. Dyak27, thanks for becoming a member. Appreciate that very much. Lone Wolf, thank you for the 16 months. Holy cow, man. Chris, thank you for the 6 months. Jordan, thank you for the 3 months. Cassie, thank you for the 17 months. Harvey, thank you for the 9 months. Remember, kids, friendly fire isn't. Let's jump into our locational footage. Well, this is our unknown location footage that we have for tonight. And we're going to watch... We're gonna watch camouflage, Ukrainian Russian style. First, Ukrainian style, and remember, if it's stupid and it works, It's not stupid. Check out this BMP. I tweeted this last night. They've covered it in trash. That's nuts. Now, to a certain extent, we can't really make fun of them, and we can't hold it in too high of regard as some kind of ingenious plan, because we've seen similar stuff before, but from Russia. All right? This is one of those cut right down the middle. We've got the carpet camo. That was a few months ago. Actually, it was about 8 months ago. But I wanted to remind you that Russia is also, or tried to be, somewhat ingenious with their camouflage. Check this out. These are Russians, and I want to say, where was this? I don't have a location for this. These are Russians using rugs to try and camouflage their infantry fighting vehicles and armored personnel carriers. And we kind of made fun of them for it, right? We kind of clowned them for that. But again, Ukraine out here using trash. To be honest, the trash kind of makes a little bit more sense than the rugs, right? Like, what is it, Aladdin? You see, you're looking down from ISR and suddenly there's, there goes a rug. Oh, I wonder if that's the trash makes a little bit more sense. Then again, once it starts moving, it's a moving pile of trash, which if my global war on terror training has told me anything, that all piles of trash will blow up. And then you get there and there's nothing but piles of trash. So that's awesome. All right, let's move on. When you leave Carl in charge of camouflage. Josh mentioned something not too long ago. He said, Ivan is the Russian military equivalent of Carl. And now every time I see a Carl joke, it's all I can think of is Ivan. All right, let's jump into our very next one. We've got, still in the unknown location section, we've got a Russian tank crew bailing out after getting hit by an anti-tank guided missile. I don't know exactly which ATGM we've got here. Copyrighted music on the backside. Going to turn our music back on. All right, watch one more time, because if you blink, you miss them. There's that ATGM coming in from the left side of your screen. All right, coming back up. What are we listening to now? I gotta go back through this playlist. This one's a good one. Let's move on to our next one. So, similar fashion, except this time, Russian BMP abandons its dismounts after it gets hit by a drone strike. Check this out. Kind of just nopes the out of there on them. Where's Ivan? When you forget to do an accountability formation before unassing the AO. Yikes. All right, let's move on to the next one. We've got some footage coming out of... We're going to move into our locational footage now. Some footage coming out of Kyiv. Let me turn this down a little bit in my ear. Evening, gang. Good evening, Tomcat. Everybody do me a favor. Slap the like button with a little bit of an uppercut. Remember, it is an uppercut because you got to lift it a little bit. When you do, just don't break the shit because we need it. It's the easiest way to support the stream. I don't ask often enough. It feels like, you know, we're begging for something, but I do need to, you know, put out a gentle reminder because it is very helpful to the stream. We do want to spend more time that we dedicate against the development of the stream, the development of the show, but we can't do that without you. So drop a comment in the chat. Let me know where you guys are here, chiming in from, and tap on the like button for us, please and thank you. How we doing? Have you showed the maps already? We have not gone through the maps. Not yet. Nope. We will be here soon, though. Hip thrust that shit. There you go. Yeah, I'm all about that. Just don't break it. Some of you guys with that extra testosterone, hip thrusting on the like button and stuff. Relax. Uppercut on the like. No, it's a little bit more of an upper gentle slap. Up and under. There you go. All right, let's jump into our next one. We've got some footage coming out of Kyiv here. I'm not going to give you too much about this, but I will tell you these are civilians in Kyiv being given some semblance of military training. I'll let you guys watch that one. Rubber ducky. Oh, that guy doesn't have a rubber ducky. That guy does. That guy does. That's not... Oh, that one is.
Що це за, блядь? Що це за покемони? Чи підел? Ти куди прийшла, їб'여 мать? Здрасте. Доброго дня. Це нахуя? Це типа ти на оленя
I hope she doesn't... I hope she finds a couch to lay on with all of that ACU pattern stuff.
пойдеш, чи що це, блядь? Ти б ще рітузи вділа, блядь. А де вудочка, я не поняв. Що це за?
I think that's what he just asked. I'm no translator, but I think he just asked, do you intend to fight laying on couches? I don't know if that might be an if you know kind of thing, but there was a very... When they first released the ACU pattern, I'm that old, believe it or not. I had BDUs at one time. When they first released the ACU pattern, there was a viral photo that went around before viral photos could be a thing of a soldier laying on a couch, and he was almost invisible. But then we put folks in this bright gray ACU pattern into like Iraq, where it's totally not any kind of camouflage pattern that's going to help.
Хорошо. Олександре, калашмат мені принеси, будь ласка. Що це за пісюн на тобі висить?
Now, I applaud these folks. Something that, there was a report that I was reading, I think it was last night. It was from a couple months ago, and it was a journalist that was on ground in Kyiv, and, it was about the Mozart Brigade. Marine colonel stood up essentially a training element. U.S. Marine colonel stood up a training element to essentially help Ukrainians. And they were training some soldiers in Kyiv. And the backdrop, these Ukrainian soldiers that had previously been civilians the week prior were training in some park in Kyiv. And there was a backdrop of just, folks with strollers, kind of two realities clashing with one. On the one hand, you've got people that are recognizing the reality of war that's impacting their nation. And on the other, it's folks that are just trying to get some semblance of normalcy and maintain some semblance of normalcy. There's a whole lot in the news right now, or in like kind of underground news circles, about the Mozart Brigade versus Wagner in Bakhmut. There's not a whole lot that can be validated right now. There are Russian Telegram accounts that are essentially claiming that the Mozart Brigade, which is the Mozart group is more appropriate to call them, that Mozart is, now fighting Wagner as though it's some kind of, poetic type thing. Yeah, there's nothing that I can find to validate that. In fact, there's overwhelming evidence that Mozart Group, more specifically, their entire function and focus is the same as a lot of volunteer organizations, non-governmental organizations that are in Ukraine right now, which is training. In fact, we accompanied one, Global Surgical and Medical Support Group. And if you guys buy the Ghost of Kyiv shirt from our website, 100% of the proceeds will go to GSMSG, doing on-ground tactical combat casualty care, training, and actually acting in a surgical capacity in support of Ukraine. Anyway. But why is your name War Lover then? No, you got that wrong. World Star of War Porn. Very different. Very, very, very different. Let's move on. We're going to move into Kherson, some Kherson footage here. We've got a Ukrainian BMP assaulting a Russian line somewhere in Kherson. Video is coming up for you guys here in just a second. We'll go full screen on this. Here we go. Copyright music on the backside. Going to turn up our own music. Love that shirt. Exclamation point merch. This is our new shirt. We just launched it, I want to say Friday. Is that Santa with a cannon? It's Santa with an AT-4 and night vision goggles. All right, coming back up. Abu Hudra, thanks for the 516. I tried to ask a question about China several times, but the super chat doesn't work. It says I need to edit the message. That's weird. Thanks for the 516. Kind of freaky. Doo-Doo29, thanks for the 37 cents. With Fighting for Freedom here, cover please. Anarch Nova, thanks for becoming a member. Welcome. Terry, thanks for the 10 again. And Abu Hudra, thanks for the 516 prior. Something just went blinky in my room and I don't know what it was. Just checking in on the chat here. I want to check in on the poll as well. So the poll that we asked earlier today, just to kind of help you understand that, and we'll circle back to the talking points we had about the incendiary munitions. We'll cover that one more time before we close things out for the day, since there are folks still joining the stream a little bit late. Be here on time for formation next time. Should NATO members designate Russia a terrorist state? That is an official process. You would officially do that. In the United States of America, what we would do is the State Department is ultimately who designates a nation a terrorist state. And the State Department has not done that. But Zelenskyy spoke with the NATO Parliamentary Assembly today, the 21st, and essentially continued to reinforce that narrative that the entirety of the world needed to essentially designate Russia a terrorist state. And without diving too far down into that, because it's covering a $20, a $20 topic on a $5 budget, I just wanted to get a better understanding of where everybody's thoughts were on designating Russia a terrorist state. No blinkies on your end? I saw a blinky on my side. Buy a t-shirt! It supports mute button training. I've only muted myself once tonight, and it was right at the beginning of the stream, so most of you didn't hear it. But if you do buy the Ghost of Kyiv shirt, that goes towards charity. I love you, Ron. I love you, Reth. Welcome in. Who's the dude screaming in the background? Sorry, that's my music. My bad. Invader. Not worth World War III. I don't think that would end up being a catalyst to World War III. What it would do is... here we go. we're getting me on the roll. What it would ultimately end up doing is just, essentially igniting the Russian populace in my mind. Right now, we watched some video earlier of even Russian state-run media arguing with each other over the tactics being used by Russia. If you designate Russia a terrorist state, what it does is, essentially unites people against one another, right? So it's an overly simplistic way of looking at it, but I can see the Russian populace getting roped into that. Oh, you're Russian? That means you're a terrorist, right? And that's not really how I personally would feel. But hey, again, I'm just a guy watching footage. Let's jump into our next footage that we have here. All right. So we've got a new poll that I want to put up here. The Zaporizhzhia nuclear power plant continues to receive indirect. So I want you guys' opinion. And there's a lot of questions about who's doing it. We're going to watch some footage of the most recent shelling. Because this is an instance of a Russian-controlled area being shelled. Ukraine claims it's Russia shelling themselves. Russia claims, of course, that it's Ukraine shelling them. Oh, jeez. I'm such a dork, dude. Hold on, I'll fix the poll. Stupid idiot. Listen, guys, don't you f***ing argue with me. Just answer the poll the way I put it up the first time. All right? All right, let's bring it back up. This is one of those instances that, to be honest with you, there are probably very few people in the world that know who exactly is doing that, right? It doesn't appear as though the Russians that are on the ground have any idea. Russia claims that it's Ukraine that's, shelling the plant, even though Russian forces are occupying the plant. Ukraine claims that it's Russia bombing themselves to blame Ukraine, ultimately to cause some kind of a catastrophe, that Ukraine can then be blamed for. I can understand each. Checking in on the chat here. My poll answer is both of them. See, that's big brain stuff. Big brain stuff right there. Yes is the type of country to do this. I think so too. I'm an idiot. Nobody ever said I was good at this, okay? Nobody said I had to be good at this. Checking in on some of the support, guys. Thank you for it. Torek, thank you for the $2. Should NATO do little blue men in Ukraine? No. Abu Hudra, thanks again for the 516. Anarch, thanks again for becoming a member. I missed a couple down here that I need to go and catch up on. I do my very best to keep up with these guys. Sometimes, we get so into the discussion in the live chat. I need to be better about making sure I'm reading all the support that you're sending across. Because again, we are a small team, and we are launching a page on our website where you can read a little bit more about each of us. Even probably a name you've never heard before, our developer. And that should be going live within the next 24 hours, if it's not already. It'll give you a little bit of background about each of us, so you have a better understanding of who's behind Funker 530. But the support definitely helps. If you'd like to support us in the most preferable way, for about the amount of money you'd pay for a coffee, you guys can pick up a Funker Premium account, funker530.com/pro. 100% of that goes back to the Funker 530 platform and team. Appreciate you. It's kind of a banger. What's this one? Oh, yeah. We're going to pause this because we're going to go back. We're going to come back to that one here in just a second. This next one's going to be a little bit not safe for work, guys. So this is what sets us apart from most of the other channels. We show it to you, understanding that it continues to kind of put us at risk for problems and challenges related to YouTube as a platform. There's a reason that we stood up our own Telegram channel not too long ago. This stuff is available on the app and on the website. And just like always, if we watch a video here, you can catch it in the stream description. But you're going to see what I assume are two Russians that appear to be sleeping, targeted directly by a drone dropped, I think it's an F1 grenade. And we're going to play that music on another one. We're not going to play any music over this one. Again, this would be considered not safe for work. Viewer discretion is advised on this. So again, as you're watching this, something to make note of here is going to be the breath that's coming out and the lack of general movement. At first, you know, my brain goes, why didn't they move? I'm going to operate off the assumption they were sleeping. Here you go. All right, so what just happened is that drone dropped F1, impacted the side over here, and has now landed next to this soldier. These are Russians. And it detonates. Now they continue to move. I don't know for how long because the video ends. I'm watching this with everyone at work right now. Okay. Well, let's watch it one more time. All right. So it impacts on that right side and then lands next to him. Now, I would assume that they were sleeping. And I can only imagine how miserable both sides are right now. Probably even a little bit more so Russians, because we do know that Russia is having a lot of problems supplying its troops. Now, there was a video, or was it a report? It's all kind of blending into one, where essentially there were certain elements of Ukrainians that were also somewhat, to some extent, begging for winter clothing. Now, there's a lot of video that's starting to come out that shows winter clothing, or that shows winter weather, a lot of snow that's beginning to fall on the ground. And it's damn cold. Damn cold right now. Let's move on. Or a wounded, I bet, before that hit. Potentially. Let's turn that banger back on and bring the mood back up a little bit. War is horrible. Yes, it is. Literally, the mission of Funker 530 is for people to start understanding that. All right, let's move on to our next one. We've got... Oh, and that is in Bakhmut. Excuse me. We have moved on to Bakhmut from our... we were previously in Zaporizhia. And we're still in Bakhmut with this next one, which is going to be Ukrainian Mi-8 choppers kind of taking the fight to Russia. Coming up for you guys now. All right, let's bring it back up and hit the music again. And that's what I've got for locations. Now, we've got a different location that we've got some footage I want to talk about. Inside Russia. All right, the very first thing that we've got here, and this was, to some extent, a little bit precedent setting. We're going to watch one of those wild-ass looking boat drone attacks that took place on a Russian oil harbor. But I want to show you guys on a map where that oil harbor is. That way you can get a little bit better of an understanding of why this is precedent setting. Just give me a second to get the map up here. 1 in 4 men have performance issues. Just wait for me. Here we go. All right. So we've got Ukraine. This attack that we're about to watch the different angles of took place at the Phosphorus oil harbor, which is all the way out here in Russia. That means that those boat drones made their way from somewhere's place up here all the way around Crimea out to that oil harbor. Now, from a significance perspective, the damage itself isn't what we're looking at. The significance of this is the distance that those boat drones were able to go. So let's watch that footage. Coming up for you guys now. Again, we're not overly focused on the significance of the damage here, more so the distance. Now, if you need like specific distance, we can probably do something in Google Maps. I haven't measured that just yet. Let's pull up Google Maps. No, I mean Google Earth, stupid idiot. Music back, please. And I want to measure just distance from that oil harbor to other locations where theoretically they would have launched that drone. All right, are you ready? Here we go. All right, get out of my face. All right, so that's where we're going to set our drop point. We're going to change distance. We'll keep it miles for now. Let's bring that all the way over here. Let's put a drop point out here in the Black Sea. And let's say they came from Odessa. That's a total distance of 478 miles. If perhaps, they had to come from Kherson, which I would be willing to bet they probably came from Odessa. But first they'd have to get past Kinburn, the spit. Then back in here. Now, kilometers, 822. If that's the route they took. One way or another, that's not close. That's far. You crossed land? Fair enough. Yeah, so you're probably looking at a few more kilometers out of that. A few more miles. At least another mile. That's far. All right, let's pause that. And then come back up to full camera. Georgia? Maybe. Maybe. Another one that's interesting. And we've got response to the poll on who is shelling Zaporizhia nuclear power plant. 74% said Russia, and 26% said Ukraine. Interesting, with over 792 votes. If you haven't voted on the poll, I'm going to leave that one up for just a second. Go ahead and vote on that. Always interested to hear your guys' thoughts on stuff. But the next one we're going to watch is, once again, inside of Russia. This time we're going to go right back to Putin's hometown, to St. Petersburg, where a Russian oil pipeline blew up. What happened to it? I don't know. Check this out. Now, Russia said it's got something to do with depressurization. And from what I understand the location to be, it's kind of in this cluster of, I shouldn't say just cluster of trees. It's surrounded by a population area, but there is a very large section of it that is nothing but an open terrain. Gas pipeline, correct. Yep. Why doesn't Ukraine take the fight to Russia? Ukraine's sole focus and purpose right now is to just expel, Russia from their territory. And generally speaking, I'm supportive of that, 100%. Right? I do hope that Ukraine's military is successful in pushing Russia out, and I hope Russia is held accountable for those atrocities against non-combatants, which are known to have been committed. And just like we talked about last Friday, if and when Ukraine conducts, to some extent, atrocities of their own, I hope they are held accountable to those as well. Plain and simple. That's wild, yeah. How could depressurization cause fire? No idea. No idea. This is the conversation I was hoping to get into, though. Call before you dig. I don't know. Somebody smoking a cigarette? Russian cigarettes have explosive tips or something on them. I do know that much. I get notified, but no tone. Extra gas? Don't know. Yeah. So the way Russia announced it is some kind of like depressurization happened, and then it exploded, and they were waiting for essentially the pipeline to burn out, and then they were going to repair it. Russian cigarettes explode more than Castro cigars. All right, let's jump into the last video. Now, I don't have a translated version of this. It doesn't really all that matter. You can kind of tell what's happening. But Russia continuing to have problems, at least at face value. It's difficult for me, sitting here and not there to validate any of this, but continuing to have problems at face value with mobilized troops refusing to fight, to an extent to where they created this video showing the arrest, at least feigned arrest, or I shouldn't say feigned arrest, at least the reported arrest of one of those mobilized troops that is refusing to fight. Whether or not this actually took place, or it is, something that Russia is putting out to show what happens if you refuse to fight, I can't be certain. Video's coming up for you now. But again, the translation I don't have directly. Josh's write-up on this is really good, though. I would strongly suggest you guys go and check out his write-up. It's good, nice, long, meaty one. Stiff. It's also sped up because otherwise it'd be a pretty long video. Watching it sped up is kind of funny when they run, though. Don't forget the cavity search, boys.
Давайте вперед. Выйти из строя. Ваши документы.
No, I want to see the running again. Oh, this is a different guy. Yeah, so again, like I said, I can't tell you whether or not that's real or otherwise. You know, we do know that a lot of mobilized soldiers have been having issues. What I can tell you is, you know, Russia is probably trying to stem some of that by putting something like this out. I do believe this came out of Russian circles, so it would make a lot of sense if it was staged. Again, can't be certain. Can't be certain for a lot of stuff coming out of the invasion of Ukraine right now. Turning the music back on, though, because that I can be certain of. Cozy, play Benny Hill Chase Song. That's what came to mind. I don't have my soundboard over here. I've got it over on the other stream, though. And typically I would have queued something like that. It would have been great. Checking out on some of the support, guys. Thank you very much for it. I do need to mention one more time, but before we get too far here, our sponsor, JX Tactical. JX Tactical makes holsters right here in the USA. If you guys are interested in a holster that has, you know, optic cuts without any extra charge, maybe you've got a little bit of fluff. I was 100 pounds heavier than I am now. There's pictures on Instagram. There's proof there. And at one time, appendix carry was really difficult for me. They make holsters for all body types, and their flagship holster is quite literally called the Fat Guy. So I don't need to do too much to explain to you who it's designed for, but they're a really awesome group of folks. Check the link that's pinned to the top of the live chat, as well as down in the description, to go check out jxtactical.com. Good folks over there, good holsters, and maybe you can now give appendix carry a shot. Let's move on. I need an AK-47 holster. That reminds me of the photo we saw of the Russian in Kherson that had a jacket over his AK, like slung sideways on his back. So he was either had it slung over his back or it was, you know, up. Can't be certain. Once again, can't be certain. Abu Hudja, thanks for the 516. Appreciate that. William, thank you for the $2. Explosions cause depressurization. So not wrong. You know, that does sound like something Russia would say. Well, technically, the fire in the building was caused by the explosion. We didn't start the fire. We just bombed the building. Torek, thanks for the $2. Smoking habits are hurting the Russian economy. Patrick, thank you for becoming a member. Appreciate that very much. Johnny, thank you for becoming a member. Ticker Tricks, thanks for gifting a membership to Johnny. That's awesome. G Productions, thanks for the 501. The first casualty of war is the truth. Ain't that the truth? Yeah, you're not wrong. Russell, thanks very much for the 6 months. America's favorite Brazilian for $2. Where can I buy one javelin for home defense? Probably Alibaba or Wish. I'm sure you can find it on Wish. Whether or not it works the way you expect it to, I don't know. And Torek, thanks again for the $2 before that. I want to circle back, and we're going to cover this again before we end things for the day, because there's going to be a lot of folks that have just joined that weren't here for the original discussion with the thumbnail and the title. Let's talk about incendiaries. Let's talk about murder sparkles, because that's what they look like. All right, we've got continued usage of incendiary munitions in Ukraine. by Russia. We do know that Ukraine also has these in their stockpiles as well. They have fallen on Russian positions before. Whether or not that's Ukraine or another instance that we continuously hear of Russia shelling themselves with this kind of stuff, once again, can't be certain. But in Bakhmut was the latest use of these incendiary munitions, and let's talk about what they are and why it matters. We're going to kill the music now. I call them murder sparkles because, to be honest with you, they're beautiful. But they're absolutely horrifying at the same time. Now, these are actually magnesium, right? Every time a new, video like this makes its way around Twitter, everybody says, phosphorus, it's illegal, it's illegal. It's not phosphorus, right? And again, we talked about this when we started the stream tonight. These are magnesium-based, and there are differences. Now, regardless of the differences, technically speaking, incendiary munitions used against military targets is not illegal. If you use incendiary munitions, either A, from the air, or in certain circumstances from the ground over civilian populations, that is what is considered illegal. But then you have to take another step. You have to take another step, and you have to ask yourself the question, what is a war crime in the first place? Well, a war crime is ultimately going to be defined by the victor. Call it what it is. Because that's just how history has worked. History is written by who? The victors. So regardless of whether or not Russia is using incendiary munitions over population centers, ultimately the victor, whomever that ends up being, needs to actually hold Russia accountable. Now, that's where we start to talk about actual legalities of this. Is the use of these magnesium munitions, which is actually the 9M22S BM-21 Grad rockets, 122 millimeter rocket, are they illegal to use? Like I said, no, technically they're not. Let's take a look at what's inside of these. Inside of each individual rocket, which again is fired from BM-21 Grads, which has the ability to fire 40 of these, you have 180 individual non-fused elements, magnesium base, and these things burn at about 2,000 degrees centigrade. Once the rocket arrives at its destination, the airburst ignites these, and they fall to the ground all murder sparkly. Let's go back to the main page of the website. It's the very first video. Easy. Oh, that's literally the live stream. Okay, well, here you go. Here's the actual video. It bursts, and those 180 individual magnesium elements are ignited. Each rocket can cover 250 feet by 250 feet. Right? So then multiply 250 squared by 40. We tried doing this math earlier, and to be honest with you, we're not going to try again. You're welcome to give that a shot yourself. If we have any mathematicians out there, or even, 5th grade level math that I can't do myself. I failed Algebra 2 twice. But they're not phosphorus. Now, Ronnie, how do you know they're not phosphorus? Well, stand by. Phosphorus has a very distinctive look. The United States uses phosphorus from a smokescreen perspective. Here's what phosphorus looks like when it's dropped, when it impacts or explodes. Has a very bright orange, dull yellow hue to the burning itself, and also leaves behind a whole lot of smoke. Right? That's one of the reasons that we use phosphorus to smokescreen. We have a former mortarman on our team. This is a strategy that is actively used by the United States. So technically speaking, even phosphorus is authorized for use against military targets, still to this day. Where it starts to get regulated from a use perspective, though, is the Convention on Certain Conventional Weapons, Geneva, 1980. Convention on Certain Conventional Weapons. It's a mouthful. There's got to be a naming committee or something in the future. Just let's start to simplify this shit. Now, the Convention on Certain Conventional Weapons states that the use of incendiary munitions is prohibited over population centers when fired from the air protection of civilians and civilian objects. Prohibited in all circumstances in a concentration of civilians, the object of attack by air-delivered incendiary weapons. What para 3 here goes on to essentially state is, technically speaking, you can fire these from a ground-based system if and only if you can make the subjective argument that the military objective you're firing at is clearly separated from the concentration of civilians. That's extremely subjective. And there are actually a lot of human rights organizations that are trying to get this, it's not really a loophole, but that are trying to get this gray area a little bit better defined. So technically, no. The use of these against military targets is not illegal. Sort of. If they are used in population centers, and Russia is unable to make the argument that the military objective they were using it against in that population center was clearly separated from the concentration of civilians. Once again, gray area. So is it phosphorus? No. Does Russia continue to use it? Yes. Does Ukraine have these in their stockpiles? Yes. Is it believed that Ukraine has used them against Russian positions? Yes. Are they justified in doing so against military targets? Yes. But this is not the first time we've seen them used. 6 months ago, over Mariupol, used to kill by burning is illegal. No, it's not. Using them against military targets is not legal, or is not illegal. What you're looking at here is Russia using those incendiary munitions on Azovstal, on the Azovstal steel plant in Mariupol. Now, to a certain extent, this is a gray area because it's known that in Azovstal, there are military targets. But what was also in the underground tunnels and areas of Azovstal were civilians. The families of the Azov battalion that were essentially holed up there in Mariupol. Technically speaking, those are non-combatants. And Russia would have a difficult time. This is just an example. One other example. If you were to go search Incendiary on the Funker 530 website, you would end up seeing just a shit ton of these videos. But technically speaking, Russia would have a hard time, even in this instance, where they were assaulting Azovstal because Azov was holed up there, but there were also civilians that were there, that those military targets were clearly separated from non-combatants. Bringing it back up. Turning the music back on. It's not legal to use such shells in a town/city, correct? Unless you can make the argument that the military targets that you're, first of all, you have to be firing it from a ground-based system, BM-21s. You cannot use it in a city to target a city when fired from the air. You cannot. But there is a loophole to fire them from the ground. Only if you're able, and this is very subjective, only if you're able to make the argument that the military target you're using it against is clearly separated and you've taken all courses of action possible to remove civilians from the area. We can go back to the language from the Convention Against Certain Conventional Weapons. I want to say it's like Article 3. No, it's Article 2, Protocol 3. And the protocol specifically is prohibitions or restrictions on the use of incendiary weapons, which that protocol is from the Convention on Certain Conventional Weapons. It's not complex at all. Promise. Check it out. I'll read it verbatim for you. It is further prohibited to make any military objective located within a concentration of civilians the object of attack by means of incendiary weapons other than air delivered. So what it's saying is basically we've covered air delivered up here and we're covering other than air delivered here. So think ground or, I don't know, sea-based delivery. incendiary weapons, except that exception, regardless of what follows that, is where the subjectivity comes into play. When such military objective is clearly separated from the concentration of civilians and all feasible precautions are taken with a view to limiting the incendiary effects to the military objective and to avoiding, and in any event to minimizing, incidental loss of civilian life, injury to civilians, and damage to civilian objects. Subjective. See what I mean? So technically speaking, incendiary munitions are legal to use against military targets. Where it starts to become regulated is their use over population centers. Now, Russia, quite honestly, has just fired these over top of, like, cities, right? We know that for 100% certainty. But it's still a gray area. And there are a lot of human rights organizations. And, even, if you were to do some Google research across your other mainstream outlets, they're going to report it the same way. Technically, it's a gray area. And they're not barred from use. Even over top, in the way that they're currently being employed, even over top of civilian areas. My feet are cold. Same, dude. All right, guys, we're going to start closing things out here. All I can say is that I appreciate you joining us tonight. It was kind of a softball of a question that we had in the title. Thanks for being here. Thanks for dropping into the chat and having a discussion. I do appreciate you guys for doing that. I appreciate civil discussion, discourse, a little bit of back and forth. All opinions are welcome. It's when you start to resort to personal attacks and things like that, when you attack the people rather than the ideas themselves, that's where the mods are going to slap you right in the PP and send you on your way, right? If you attack an idea, that's different. Attacking people is really not the best way to have a good discussion. I'm going to go play some fighter jet stuff, right? We're just starting to dip our toes into DCS world. I got an FA-18 Charlie just sitting there waiting for me to get shot down by bots. If you'd like to come join us, we're currently raising money for U.S. and allied nation veterans. We'd love to have you. Go check out funker530.com/pro. 100% of your premium accounts over there support us. If you're on iOS, you get your first month free. Go check it out. You get an ad-free viewing experience. You also get some pretty awesome perks from some of our partners as well. There's an ATN discount code, and ATN's got some really nice stuff. I'm out of here. Stay informed.